My name is Vanessa Quigley, and I'm the mother of 7 children. I wanted to document those everyday moments of our family's life. And I just try to capture it all. Even when I walk in the house, and there's a rule in our home to hang up your backpack and put your shoes in your cubbies. But many times I walk in and everything's just an explosion of things in the mudroom. And it is always kind of annoying. And sometimes I'm mad. And sometimes I just pull out my camera and take a picture of it because one day my house is going to be empty and it's going to be quiet. And I'm going to wonder, like, what was it like to have a house full of life? And so that photo will probably not go on my wall. It might not even make it in my chat book, but I want it to help tell the story of what life with 7 kids was like.
This is the How She Moms podcast with Whitney Archibald. I'm a mother of 5 on a mission to help moms connect with your kids, manage your homes, and create your own unique version of motherhood. I curate ideas from different moms so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. Before we get started, I'd like to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. BetterHelp is therapy that feels like it was designed for busy moms. There are a lot of things that stand in the way of moms taking care of ourselves and getting the therapy we often need. Scheduling an appointment, arranging a babysitter, even finding the time to drive to an office building. With BetterHelp, all those obstacles disappear. It's professional therapy done securely online. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating within 48 hours. It's not a crisis line, it's not self-help, it's professional therapy. The service is available for clients worldwide, no matter where you live, so even if you don't have a lot of local resources, you get access to over 20,000 experts. BetterHelp is committed to finding the right therapeutic match for you, and it's easy and free to change therapists if not. You can also log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. You'll get a timely and thoughtful response, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you don't have to find that babysitter. You can even schedule it during nap time. Plus, BetterHelp is more affordable than traditional offline therapy and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit BetterHelp.com, that's BetterHelp, and join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. There's a special offer for How She Mom listeners. You can get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/HowSheMoms. Vanessa Quigley is a storyteller at heart, which is why I'm so happy that we get to have her share part of her story with us today. As you heard in the intro, she's the mother of 7 kids, which may seem like an impossible number until you realize that she is actually the oldest of 12 children. I guess it's all relative. Anyway, one of the main ways Vanessa tells the story of this very large family of hers is through pictures, starting back in the scrapbooking days. When that got overwhelming, not to mention outdated, she started looking for an easier solution. And when she didn't find it, she created her own. Today, she's going to tell us how and why she and her husband founded Chatbooks, a company that allows you to create wonderful little photo books right from Instagram or even your camera roll. Then she shares tips on how she takes meaningful pictures of her own family. She even walks us through her weekly process of curating her family photos so they don't just end up stored on some hard drive somewhere or worse, getting lost entirely. Before we get started with the interview, I don't want to forget to tell you that Vanessa has her own podcast called the Mom Force Podcast. She's really good at interviewing guests and bringing out their unique stories. I started our conversation by asking Vanessa how she started documenting her family life back when her kids were little.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I knew that we needed to invest in a video camera and a good film camera because my parents were really good at documenting the story of our lives growing up in our family. I'm the oldest of 12, and we were kind of a novelty in the neighborhood and in our whole town, actually. And my dad loved recording interviews of us and all of the things that we were into and enjoying. And my mom was a really great scrapbooker. She took lots of photos and scrapbooked some, not every year of my childhood, but the ones that she did get around to, those were absolute treasures for me and really created a foundation for me of like knowing who I was and where I came from and, all that good stuff. And so I wanted that for my children. So we started, videoing regularly, just like hours and hours of video of the baby rolling around on the floor and the toddler learning to walk and long form video. And looking back, I wish that I had continued doing that through the years because those are just treasures to just like have like a seat in the room and relive those moments. And And then all the photos, we would take the film to Costco and get it developed. And I would make beautiful scrapbooks out of those photos. Scrapbooking was an important job to be done. I felt, that was something that needed to be done, but also was my creative outlet, because babies would go to bed by 7 and I would have all this time in the evening, and I would pull out all my materials, papers and stickers and pens and stamps and, all of the stuff. I really dreamed of having a room, my own dedicated scrapbooking room. That never happened, but it was a creative outlet, but I also felt like really important family history work that I was doing. And for the first few years of motherhood, it was doable. But somewhere around baby number 4, actually, after I had my 4th baby, that was probably the last pages that ever got completed in the scrapbooks. I continued taking the photos and even cropping them with ideas of how I was going to lay them out on the pages, but find the time to sit down and do that with 4 kids, and then 5, and then 6, it just never happened again. And so fast forward a few years, and my youngest, who was just getting ready to go to kindergarten, had a little experience with him that changed the way I was documenting, and actually was the impetus for starting Chatbooks. He was looking through a little photo album that his preschool teacher had made for preschool graduation. She just picked up like a little dollar store. It was like a Disney Cars album, and dropped in a couple of photos that she had taken throughout the years of their class parties and field trips. And there was probably maybe a dozen photos in it, but it was a treasure for him, because that was literally the only thing he had to hold on to or to look back on from his little life at that point. And after looking through this little album, he started bawling, and he told me through his giant tears that he never wanted to grow up. And I thought that was adorable, because here's this little 5-year-old just already feeling reminiscent, and it was cute. But it also was devastating to me to know that I had failed in what I knew was a really important job, that he had a lot more to his story than just that year of preschool. And I realized in that moment that I had been documenting it basically on Instagram, because our families moved around a lot. Again, I'm from a big family, and that was a really easy way to keep in touch with my family and close friends, was by sharing highlights of what our family was doing on social media, on Instagram in particular. And I know that I sometimes would even lay in bed and swipe back through my Instagram history as like a little walk down memory lane. But I wasn't going to hand my phone to my child to do that. If anything, I was trying to take all the electronics away from him. But I thought, man, if he could just have all of those photos automatically printed in a photo book, he would know that there was more to his story, and that would alleviate all of this mom guilt that I had been feeling, and then just came to a huge crushing blow in that moment. And so that aha moment led to a couple of hack weeks. My husband had a small software development team that was working on another project, and they kind of laid all that aside and pivoted and tried building what I wanted. And I'm so grateful that they did, because that was the beginning of our business now that we've been working on for the last 7 years, that has grown into a multi-million-dollar business helping families document and hold on to their stories.
That's amazing. So what made you, because a lot of us have those fleeting ideas like, oh, I wish this existed.
Yes.
What took you from that idea to being like, actually, let's do this. Let's make this.
Well, let's see. When my 5th baby was born, my husband had an experience at his grandfather's funeral where there were some photos and audio clips and things shared at the funeral that he had never seen before, including an audio clip of his grandfather singing Home on the Range, which just so happened to be the song that my husband sang to my children every night. And we wanted that recording. I wanted to be able to share it with my kids, but somehow in the hustle and bustle of that weekend, we lost track of who actually had the recording. And my husband became obsessed with making a way for families to safeguard, organize, and enjoy all kinds of family memorabilia, including photos and videos and audio clips and journal entries. And this was before Family Search. And Family Search is a website by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that helps document all kinds of family history, including the memories section where you can put photos and videos and stories. Before that was built, my husband was working for years to kind of build this solution. And it was very ambitious. It was complicated. It was years in the making, but it was not profitable. In fact, very few people were using it. It required a lot of work, and it had a noble goal, right? The goal was to strengthen families by being able to share all these important things. But it wasn't a pressing of a need, that it was something that people would always say, oh, I should totally do that. But no one was doing it. But you know what they were doing? Posting to Instagram.
Right.
And now the reasons why people post to Instagram can be varied, right? Some of it is you want to share, you want to stay connected, but there was also like needing a little bit of validation. I really think that's why Instagram took off, because you would post something and then people would be like, oh, your family's so cute. Oh, you're such a good mom. Oh my goodness, how fun. And we all need a little pat on the back, especially mothers, because so much of what we do is unseen and unpraised, and this is our chance to kind of put it out there. And I know for me, that was really validating. And for whatever reason, it was just easier. More people were posting to Instagram. And so I think after a couple of years of working to build this other solution, he pivoted, and we just decided to focus on what people are doing. And, the difference in hearing people say, oh, that's so awesome, I should totally do that, when we showed them the old, business model. And then when we showed them, print your Instagram, it was, oh my gosh, shut up and take my money. I need this right now. There was a lesson right there on what is a winning business and what is not. But, through the years, Instagram has changed too. I don't share as much personal things on Instagram as I used to. It's more of a place to build your business, and it has a different feel. And we realized very soon after starting Chatbooks that printing your Instagram is not solving this problem for everyone. And so we built a way to make books as easy as possible and as affordably as possible, straight from your camera roll. But, as a mother of 7, I know what a mother's life is like and how busy we are, and how, we're creative and we're ambitious and we want to do all these big projects. But the reality is this is not the season for projects. And so
Right.
being able to document on an ongoing basis the magic that happens every day in our homes in a way that was doable was our goal. It continues to be the goal and the thing that drives us as we continue to iterate on our product. And I think we've landed on something that's working for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. As a user myself, I know that. My kids,
Oh, yay!
in fact, this morning we're looking through Chatbooks. I was like, that's perfect.
Oh,
now, am I
it
behind
so
in my
much.
Chatbooks? Yes, I am behind in my Chatbooks, but it's a lot easier than scrapbooking to catch up.
For sure. Well, and then the model, we pivoted to something called month books, because so few people are posting, what they want to hold on to in their books on social media. We now have a monthly subscription where you just pick 30 photos each month to go into your book. And we even have, AI that helps pick those 30 photos. If you don't even have time to pick your 30 best, with all of the millions of photos that we've printed, we already can give a printability score to all of your photos and pick for you. So yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, I need to try that. Yeah. So I'm curious what your process looks like now. We all take a billion photos on our digital cameras not even our, why did I say digital cameras, on our phones. And that can be even more overwhelming than a stack of photos that you have to make into a scrapbook. What do you do on your family level on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to keep those Chatbooks rolling and to keep the memories visible?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing to do is to create a regular habit of cleaning out your camera roll, because actually, I'm going to go back. The most important thing is to back up your photos because we all know someone whose phone has fallen into the toilet or for some reason broken and they've lost precious photos. I mean, I have friends who lost all the photos of their babies, being babies. Like, you can't get that back. And that's devastating. So the first thing I would do is make sure you're backing them up somehow. And for me, what has been the game changer is creating a regular weekly habit to go back through the photos that I've taken and get rid of the stuff that I don't want. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking 10 snaps of the one photo that you hope to get, because they're children and they're going to be moving around, and sometimes it takes 10 to get the one good one that you actually want to keep. But what happens if we don't go back and clean out the garbage? Then when we need that photo for either our Chatbooks or some project or whatever, we're just drowning in a million things that we don't really need. So I have something that I call the Sunday Select. Sundays are, a time of reflection for me, and part of my looking back on the week and then preparing for the week ahead is I go through and I just delete all of the junk. And sometimes it's 50 photos. Sometimes it's literally like 300 photos that I get rid of. I always like to go back and check to see how much it makes me feel really good, how many I was able to get rid of. And then at the same time, I favorite the ones that I know I want to maybe include in a Christmas card collage or in my Chatbooks, or I've got a big photo gallery wall. The best of the best get favorited. And then at the end of the month, I pick the 30 that represent that past month, and they go in my Chatbooks and my month book. I also have folders for each of the kids. And so I will also grab the ones that they're in and put them in their folder, because at the end of the year, I make them a yearbook, and it's really easy to just grab all of those photos that way. So it takes a little bit of doing, but I found that it's like this beautiful gratitude practice, honestly, to be able to look back. I mean, sometimes on Sundays, I can feel like, ugh, I did not get everything done that I wanted to. And I feel this like sense of, I'm going to do better next week. And I have this like, it's like the turning new leaf syndrome. I'm going to do better next week, but let me look back on last week and see what was actually good. Do you ever feel that way?
Oh yeah.
That you're
no,
like,
absolutely.
Where did the week go? I had such great hopes and dreams for everything I was gonna be able to do. But then by just going back through the week, I'm reminded of like beautiful, wonderful things that happen that sometimes life's going so fast, you don't even get to like think about or realize or be grateful for. So that's a practice that really has helped me. And then, like I said, we back everything up to the cloud through iCloud. Google Photos. I love Google Photos because their AI is unparalleled. It is so easy to find a photo. For example, I wanted to make a book for my daughter of all pictures of our cat. And you just type in cat, and every photo you've ever put in Google Photos that has a cat in it, even a video, if you have a video with 1 second of a cat walking through it, they will tag it. And so it's so easy to make books based on specific people, or I wanted to do a book of different skiing pictures, and you just type in snow skiing and it pulls up all the snow skiing pictures. Anyway, I love Google Photos for that. And then Dropbox is kind of the long-term storage. At the end of every year, I will, when everything's been curated, I will put all the ones that I want to keep forever and ever in Dropbox. So that's what works for me. I actually worked with someone named Miss Freddie. She's on Instagram. She's a professional photo organizer. She also will help scan your photos and digitize all kinds of things that you might want, that you have analog versions of that you want digitized. She has courses and stuff like that. And I learned a lot from her, but it really requires a little bit of discipline. But I hope that I've pitched how that discipline can actually be a blessing in your life. Use a weekly gratitude practice to look back through the week, get rid of the rest, reflect on what was good. And then it actually reminds me that going forward, life was moving so fast. If I can just stop for a second and take a picture, it almost like freezes that moment. And I feel more grateful even in that moment when I take the picture. In fact, I just walked into the house. My oldest daughter, she's married and they've been living in California. She came home for a couple of days. And when I walked in, all three of my girls were sitting at the bar eating Chick-fil-A for lunch. And I just, it was such a treat to see them all together. And I just had to take my camera out and take a picture of it. It's probably not Instagram worthy. It's probably not going to ever hang on my wall, but it captured a magical moment for me. And that's just keep taking the pictures and then curate them on a weekly basis. That's what works for me.
That's great. So what have you learned from doing this curating practice, or how have you changed how you take pictures because you're doing this?
I learned a lot by looking back at the pictures that my parents took, and they didn't have the benefit of being able to take a million pictures every day. A roll of film wasn't cheap, and you would get 12 exposures, maybe 24, 36 if you're really lucky. And so they had to be really frugal with how, which photos they took. It seems that the camera always came out at like the dance recitals and the graduations and, the bigger events that feel like milestones that you want to document. But the photos that I love the most are just the randoms taken in our home of like us laying around watching TV, or of my mom cooking in the kitchen. Just those photos of everyday life, what the inside of our van looked like with all the car seats in our 15-passenger van. And so I knew that I wanted to be documenting those everyday moments of our family's life. And I wasn't doing as great of a job as I thought I was. There's this one moment my son was learning how to write. He was kind of a little slower to read and write. And one day I came outside and I realized that he had been practicing his name with a rock on the side of my minivan.
Oh,
and
boy.
It was like, I was horrified. I was also so grateful that he finally got the H in Henry just right. I really wish I had taken a picture of that, because I've told that story so many times. And, it's a great story, but I wish I had captured the look on his face, the etching in the side of my van, that moment I would have loved to have a photo of. But so going forward, I just try to capture it all. Even when I walk in the house and, there's a rule in our home to hang up your backpack and put your shoes in your cubbies. But many times I walk in and everything's just an explosion of things in the mudroom. And it is always kind of annoying. And sometimes I'm mad. And sometimes I just pull out my camera and take a picture of it, because one day my house is going to be empty and it's going to be quiet. And I'm going to wonder, like, what was it like to have a house full of life? And so that photo will probably not go on my wall. It might not even make it in my chapbook, but I want it to help tell the story of what life with 7 kids was like.
Yes, I love that. So then the follow-up is, what cool things have people done in their chapbooks that just kind of blew you away, or just surprised or delighted you?
Well, I love making yearbooks for my kids. I have a little habit of, every week taking the photos that the kids are in and putting them in their folder, and I can include those in their yearbooks. But I've seen other people do some really creative things in their kids' yearbooks. They, throughout the year, jot down cute things that they say, or text messages. Like sometimes, like their spouse will share, like, oh, this is what happened. They'll screenshot that. They put all of that in their yearbook as well, including pictures of artwork from school, or maybe like a paper that they got 100%, A+ and a sticker on. And I just think it's fun to like think outside of the box there. And then also think about what life is like from them, like in their eyes. What does their bedroom look like, and their closet look like, and their favorite outfit, and their friends. Sometimes I think as mothers and as parents, we're documenting from our point of view. But if you like try to put yourself in their shoes, like what's their favorite meal? Like those are the things that they're going to want to remember. I really wish I had a picture of what my room looked like when I was 13. I
That's
think I remember,
great point.
but my favorite color was purple, and my mom let me decorate it all purple. I had purple carpet, purple duvet, purple curtains, purple paint, purple everything. And it didn't take long for me to hate the color purple. I kind of OD'd on it. And I've told that story to my girls so many times, and I wish I had a picture of what that actually looked like. So I think like putting yourself in your kids' shoes and trying to anticipate, what are they going to want to remember? And what's their point of view of this family life that they're living?
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned like the inside of the van. Those are probably kind of incidental things that just were in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of being deliberate about that, and just catching what those little details were. Like I think of immediately of this lamp that my grandma had. Like I wish we had like, and the fake grapes on her coffee table, and things like that. That would be really cool. And I had a cousin go through and do that for the grandma on one side, and just little details in her house, and made a little book of it. And it's so cool.
Oh.
And I just wish I had that of my other grandma. I wish that would have occurred to me before that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
my friend actually hired a photographer to follow her family around to do a day in the life of their family, and like took kind of candid pictures of like them just going through their day. And they're beautiful professional photographs, but you can totally do that on your own. Like pick a child one day and just follow them around and take all the pictures of, them going through the routine of their life and with their friends, and where they do their homework and their soccer practice and their favorite jammies and their favorite book to read at bedtime. that doesn't take a whole lot of work and it doesn't cost anything. And that would be such a treasure for them to have, at every phase of their life, every stage.
That's great. There's this essay. Do you know the writer Susan Orlean?
No.
She's a nonfiction writer. She wrote The Orchid Thief. That's one, probably her best selling. She writes for the New Yorker. Anyway, the first essay I ever read of hers is called American Boy Age 10. And she just like found this, I'm sure it wasn't random, but she followed this 10-year-old boy around all day and recorded conversations, wrote details about what he was wearing and what, I think it was actually a week, not a day. And I always you just reminded me, I always intended to do that with my own kids at like a specific age. And I've done it a little bit here and there, but that would be a really cool project to include both in writing and in pictures, like a typical day in the life of this at this age, and just capture their personality.
And you know what, honestly, video. And I think I've been so focused on photos as we've been building our business around photos. We have goals of being able to help people hold on to their videos, but that's a bigger thing to tackle. And we haven't quite landed on the best way to help people, curate and enjoy their videos. But I wish I had more video. Like I mentioned before, I used to take a lot of long form video of my kids. And I think it started when your phone didn't have very much storage. And so if you took a very long video, you run out of storage, then you have to start deleting. But thankfully, technology just keeps getting better and better. And with iCloud storage, we can take more video. And so I think that project you're describing sounds amazing. Write the things down, take the photos and take video, because you just don't get those voices back. My youngest, he's 13. He's just starting to go through that change. And I feel like I need to get more video of him talking in his little boy voice, because one day he's going to wake up and he's going to be a man. And that's going to make me cry.
Yes. Not to mention that in between stage, which is so funny to have recorded too. Yeah, no, I love that. So as we wrap up this topic, I just love an overview of why you think this is so important to families, to individuals, to actually take the time to record your history.
Well, I know for me, looking back on the scrapbooks and the journals and the ways that my mom documented our family story were very meaningful to me. In fact, she had a scrapbook of her life in her childhood, and then meeting my dad and their dating life and their early marriage. And that was honestly my favorite thing to look at, because it just felt like she had this charmed, glamorous, happily ever after, like storybook life. And I wanted to have one day. And look, she did it. Like, maybe I will have this thing. Maybe I'll get to go to BYU one day, and maybe I will travel in Europe, and I'll get to marry my handsome Prince Charming. For me, it really gave me a foundation of, who I was and what was possible for me in my life, in self-esteem. Like that's really what I took from that. And so, and I've seen, as I've tried to document our family story, I've seen our kids kind of hold on to that and hold on to the stories of our life together as a grounding point. And, but I also wanted to have some like data to back that up, something that I felt in my family and that I've seen with my own children. Our Chatbooks partnered with HP a couple of years ago and did a pretty big research project. We surveyed tens of thousands of families about specifically printed photos and how printed photos helped strengthen their families. And the data was fascinating. And 98% of the people that responded said that when they look at printed photos together as a family, they share more of their feelings and experiences, and they tell stories. And it's something that the psychologist we were working with says is called elaborative reminiscing in their field of work. And these elaborative reminiscing conversations, there's so much research tied to outcomes of elaborative reminiscing that we would want for our families, including reduced anxiety, increased problem solving, and more ability to use language, less instances of depression, and stronger self-esteem. Like all of the things we want for our families can come from sharing stories while looking at printed photos. And it's those stories that shape the narrative of our life. And everyone knows a good story isn't all, and it got better and it got better and it got better, right? All of the great stories have like some hard challenge that you have to overcome. And, you hit rock bottom and then you figure your way out, and that's what makes you stronger. And the hero's journey, like our life is just one giant hero's journey, just going over and over again. And I think as parents, we can help our kids recognize, how these things that happen to us through life, they're not just meant to just be ignored. Like we learn from them, and we learn from them by talking about them, and what lesson, comes from our successes, but also our failures and the hard things that we have to go through. So I think just constantly talking through our stories, and, having a photo of something, gives you some background to have a conversation. But I also know that there's a lot of my childhood I don't remember. Really the things that I remember, there's a photo for.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of other stuff I'm sure that happened. In fact, I ran into somebody I hadn't seen since I was a teenager, and he started saying, remember this? And remember when we did this? And I'm like, this is news to me. I have no recollection of it, probably because I don't have a photo of it. Like really, if I think back on my memories through high school and elementary school, most of my memories are tied to a photo. So there is real power in having photographs of these things. But according to these psychologists that we worked with, it's really the conversations that create that foundation of self-esteem and strength and resiliency that we want for our kids. That's where it comes from.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad you did that survey. Study. That's really great.
Well, the mission of Chatbooks is to strengthen families. And we have it painted on a big mural wall in our office as a reminder to everyone who works there and comes in and out, that that's our goal. And everything that we do inside the company and outward is to do that. And then the other side mission is to see the magic in every day. And so we're hoping that one of the ways we can strengthen parents, especially, is if they can get into the habit of seeing the magic in the ups and downs and the good and the bad of family life. Even the hard times, there's magic to be seen there. And if we often just snap a photo and can hold on to it and remember and look back on it, that we can feel strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for listening to the How She Moms podcast and for being part of this community. There are so many other ways for you to connect and hopefully also contribute. I share tips and ideas regularly on Instagram and Facebook at How She Moms, and we also have a Facebook group that you can join, which is the main place for more philosophical discussions about the ideas I'll be discussing on future episodes of the podcast. It's also one of the best ways for you to contribute to future episodes. You can find past episodes and other resources at howshemoms.com. I have big plans for revamping my site this fall, so stay tuned for that. And you can always just email me directly at whitney@howshemoms.com. Special thanks to my own wonderful mom, Susan Singley, for recording my theme music. She played this song all the time when I was growing up, and to me, it's the soundtrack of motherhood.